What's up, gang? This is Dominic D'Angelo of OneTrueSportTV.com and FourHorsemenNetwork.com. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, get the word out about both because you get to not only hear Arn Anderson on the FourHorsemenNetwork.com, but you get to hear these guys, the boss, Magnum TA, and the facilitator, Mr. Greg Gagne. Guys,
Facilitator.
the facilitator.
I haven't facilitated too much lately.
Too much, but there's never enough here because we are live and we're ready to take your guys' questions. We're ready to talk a little bit of pro wrestling and the past, the present. I've got a fun little thing planned today and looking forward to getting Greg and Magnum's perspective on both. Magnum, how are you doing?
I have been busy in all things Powertown for the last week. We ran a give back promotion to all of our fans and folks that have invested in our product, and we had to announce some unavoidable delays that were a little, I'm sure disappointing for a few folks, but we have managed to do something no other probably toy company history has ever done, and that every single person that had an order with us, whether it was for one figure or a bundle, had the opportunity to get a free figure from Powertown as our We Owe You One program. And as you can imagine, when you give something away for free, you get quite a response.
Oh, yes.
and there's challenges that go along with all that. So anyway, it has been it was an interesting weekend. It's been an interesting week, and looking forward to getting to the next chapter in all things Powertown. So Greg can tell you about some of the exciting things coming down the pipeline, which he's dying to do.
No, I'm not. I know. I've got a couple announcements, but I'm going to hold them off. I'm not going to say them on air until I clear it with the boss.
The boss. It's the boss.
What a refreshing thing. If you could just send that memo out to about a half a dozen people, if you send that out, just say, don't do anything without running it by the boss.
Running it by the boss. You know what? Well, we're on this podcast. Hopefully millions of people are watching, and we just put it out there for them.
There you
That's
go.
it. It's that easy, I think. Guys, if
people have to hear it, though.
That's it. That's the key. That's the key component. Guys, if you have questions, be sure to chime in on the chat. We'll get to them here shortly. Did want to get some of your guys' perspective. Greg said he watched Raw this week. Magnum, did you get a chance to catch it, or have that not been on?
I haven't really seen much besides the back of my eyelids about the time Greg lets me off work every day. It's quite a challenge to get from this chair just back there to the back where I go to sleep, and then it doesn't take long. I made the mistake of starting to watch Reacher. I had never watched Jack Reacher, that series on
Amazon.
Yeah, and I'm hooked, and I've been Reacher binging any little spare moment I've got, and I've decided if I could be reincarnated, that would be the cat that I should be.
What's it called? Reacher?
Reacher, yep. It's a novel, a series of novels. I can't remember who wrote the novels, the Reacher novels. But the funny thing is like people were mostly related to Tom Cruise because he was in the movies. But the character Reacher himself is like a bigger dude.
Yeah, 6'5", 250, 260.
Tom Cruise is what, 5'6", 5'5"?
Yeah,
So,
the guy in the series totally, has got it nailed. I mean, he does an amazing job. He'd been a heck of a wrestler. That guy's he's a beast.
Wow.
I gotta watch it.
I guess if I can figure out how to get on Amazon, I'll watch it.
There you go. We can all binge it, watch it, and then we'll talk about it like a book club almost.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just like our book club about the wrestling here.
That's it. Well, Greg, you caught Raw. Give me some of your thoughts on what you thought of this.
Well, it kind of surprised me because it was only 2 hours.
Yes, that's right. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if they've shrunk it to 2 hours on USA or if that was just some special that they had to run in.
No, moving forward, it's 2 hours on USA, and then once it goes to Netflix, it's supposedly going to stay 2 hours, but Triple H has kind of hinted maybe not 2. We'll see how it goes. So right now it's a 2-hour show, Raw. So what? Yeah, it's
Well, that kind of caught me off guard a little bit, but it started out great with God. I'll tell you that Ripley, she is something else.
She is, isn't she?
And that Raquel,
Yep.
she's a monster.
Yeah.
How tall is she? Does anybody? She looks like she's about 6'2".
She does, doesn't she? I'm going to look her up right now. Raquel Rodriguez.
And she is built. And
you nailed it, Greg. 6'2". 6'2".
Is she really? Yeah. She looked like it. I think, God, is she that big?
So did they take a page out of AEW and what's going on over there with the boss? Is that what they did? It
yes.
looks very much like that, does it not?
It does, because she's like her right-hand woman, basically. Liv Morgan's right-hand woman. And she's the enforcer of that group.
And then Rhea brought out Tiffany.
Yes, your gal. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then they tagged later on in that night, too.
Yeah, they took a little beating. She did, but you know what? She's come a long ways. Yeah,
she was definitely one of the top stars in the women's division across the board. And there's so much more to come from her, because it's just like all these. The neat thing about this women's division and how WWE handles them is like they all have their own unique look and their unique identity and stuff like that, and they're not afraid to kind of embrace that in a lot of ways. You have. Rhea's such the ass kicker and everything like that. And Tiffy's got the Barbie vibe going on kind of thing. And the clueless, like school, like mean girl vibe. And then you have, Chelsea Green, who's doing a lot of good comedy work and stuff like that and getting a lot of talent over that way too. So it's just, it's very funny.
It started out with the girls,
mm-hmm.
And the second match was Damage Control against Cargill and Belair.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that Cargill, is she built?
She
is phenomenal. They all are. The girls did a phenomenal job, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
They carried that the first part of the program, and they ended with it too.
Well, the wild part about that too is that was taped a week ago. That wasn't taped like early. That was not live. I thought I knew they were over in the UK right now, or they were earlier this week.
Yeah.
But I thought they taped it earlier in the day. But here, this was taped right after they recorded Raw last week. So the fans there had to sat through 4 hours of tapings. So, but yeah, they showcased the women on the second episode.
They really did. Yeah, and God, it was good. It was a good program all the way through.
Yeah.
Did you see? You didn't get to see any of it, TA?
Nope.
Okay.
not even one. And it seemed like we just talked, and I have been, like I said, engulfed.
Yeah, I know you have been.
Just absolutely engulfed. But I think you bring up an interesting point about this show scaling down, because I always thought 3 hours was too much.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I always thought that was too long.
I did too.
And you could question 2 hours sometimes. Like 90 minutes might be the sweet spot, for actual, attention spans but they're so deep in talent.
Yeah.
To keep carrying their storylines. I love what's going on with Randy and Cody and all this back and forth deal with Kevin and where that's very intriguing, and all those guys can work. So it's good stuff, and the deal with the bloodline, and they got to get. It's like they've got to get Roman, in something hard, because right now, he's too good a player not to have heavily engaged in like just a monster confrontation. So I know they're stancing it. I know they're building to something they're going to do, but I'm anxious to see what that is.
Well, you know what? I was when I'm watching it, the feeling I'm getting, but because Cody's champion, it might not happen that way. But WrestleMania, it looks like Reigns, Cody, and The Rock.
That's been a rumor.
against the other
The
boys,
bloodline.
Sojo and that whole crew.
But
Yeah.
did we get any more info on the mysterious, the sign language and the stuff the Rock's done? Did they play into that anymore?
Not so much. No, I don't
No.
believe so. I know The Rock indicated that he was not happy with Roman or Cody, but there's no clue as to if he's in cahoots with Solo Sikoa and the new bloodline, which
Right.
everybody think he's like the orchestrator of that. So,
And it could be. I mean, he made that little appearance outside the curtains.
yep, he
and
did.
then walk back off.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm totally wrong with that. Maybe they will go in the other direction with him, against Reigns and Cody or whoever.
It's going to be interesting because Magnum, I'm really with you in a lot of ways where it's like you want to make the most of having Roman back and around it because he feels like such a big deal. And the new bloodline, I love the new bloodline and what they've kind of been doing with it, but they've been also kind of cannon fodder for a lot of these guys when it comes to Cody and Roman. Like Cody's been able to handle like Solo several times, been able to handle Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa real easily. Same with Roman too. So it's like you want to build these guys up, but in the same turn, they don't feel as big as a deal as like a Roman Reigns or a Cody Rhodes, and you want that to match your top baby faces. So that's kind of like an uphill battle, I think, for them this WrestleMania season.
Well, in coming back off of the most intense WrestleMania I personally have ever watched, and Roman solidly being a heel next to the mega heel that the Rock turned out for everybody, it's really difficult putting him now in a quasi babyface mode, which obviously a huge following and whatnot, because that edginess is still kind of the thing that the people like. It's not that he's an anti-hero, but he's you don't want him to lose his mojo, kind of the vibe, and it, I'm sure a lot of guys smarter than me already got it all figured out where they're going with all of it. But as I watch it, I just look at that commodity every week, wanting to see it, something really strong,
right?
Move, and I think that it was a great thing they did with the new bloodline piece and everything, as follow up to and all that. I think that was all great, but it's in no way, shape, or form got the impact, of what Roman was going out there and doing every week for, how many months,
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you miss out on like the aspect of like, yeah, he seems like this unstoppable force that can Cody end it? Like, can Cody put an end to Roman Reigns' reign? And sure enough, he did. So how do you get the hangover of him coming back? It feels like such a big deal, him returning and everything like that. You got to keep that momentum going, and you want to build the big stars, big heels for him to go up against. And right now, I think it's good. The family stuff is good, but it's also like, man, they didn't serve Solo and the other two brothers very well. Jacob Fatu, on the other hand, looks like a big deal. And so there's potential there. It's just interesting to see if the payoff is going to pack the punch I initially thought it was going to. So
if it were me, I would swerve them all and turn Jacob Fatu. And I would turn him on all those guys and let him just be that lone flipping wolf character and a wild man. And he would get over like $1 million. I mean, he'd be a huge baby face.
Yeah.
And because, obviously they're not wanting to put Jey Uso back in the mix, right now. But if they did the right thing with The Rock, if they flipped the script and blew everybody away and really turned on, put the gas on Jacob, there's something there, because that's some magic in that can that they haven't even tapped into yet.
Oh yeah, definitely, absolutely. I worked with Jacob Fatu when he was with MLW, and they did some promos like that where he like opened up about his past. He's like drinking a Hennessy and smoking a cigarette outside and like just cutting a promo, and it was great stuff. Like he's got great promo ability that can really get over.
Does
So,
he?
yeah, he's really, really good. He's really good. So they haven't even tapped into that yet, obviously. So
Yeah.
No,
Yep.
and there's a lot of different directions they can go with it. It'd be interesting to see because now they got, they also got Cody and
Mhm.
Orton involved with Kevin.
Yeah.
So where's that going?
Exactly. That thing is, I could not predict you a WrestleMania card right now. I have no
Yeah.
idea what it would be, who's going up against who, and who's lining up at where, because there's so much possibilities that could happen and unfold until then. So,
They're in Las Vegas, so you're gonna have to have a big championship match,
yep. Mhm.
or a couple of those for sure. So it'll be interesting in the direction they're going here. I mean, they're keeping everybody off balance, and that's what you need to do to keep people watching.
That's it. And it's certainly an exciting time for pro wrestling overall. But yeah, WWE's been really riding a good momentum. I think it's kind of like right now they're in the in between of going to Netflix and that WrestleMania season. So how do you keep things hot? Plus they're dealing with football season. Lots of added aspects coming into play. MLB playoffs going in. So it's been an interesting ride so far.
If I were them, I'd build that Hall of Fame in Vegas.
Ooh,
That's what I
a
would
great
do.
idea. Yeah.
I'd build that Hall of Fame in Vegas where you've got all those people in and out year round, never turns off, city that never sleeps, and put that there and move all that stuff. Because I thought they'd do it in Orlando initially, just because of the Performance Center and all that stuff. But now with the UFC and all the other things and all that interaction, if they put it in Vegas, boy, that would be, a destination, for everybody.
Yeah.
Well, we had our TV show for ESPN. We shot out of Vegas.
Where'd you guys shoot from in Vegas?
They shot it out of the Showboat.
The Showboat. Okay.
Yeah, and when that ESPN wanted a look in a big city, and we were in Las Vegas with our regular TV show, so we just put the ESPN show and did all our matches out there at the Showboat.
Wow.
And it drew. I mean, the Showboat was in a big arena, but it was always packed, and there was people that couldn't get in. But it's a hotbed for all sports, really. Then you put the gambling aspect on it. That would be really interesting.
My goodness, yeah. Could you imagine like having the Hall of Fame, like a physical Hall of Fame there, plus it's like a part of a casino or something like that?
Yeah.
Totally can. I can see it like.
Yeah, I can too.
Yeah, right?
Like an oasis.
You could definitely make it all, man. Magnum, you are the boss. I tell you what, I love it.
Maybe we should start it out there, you and I.
Do it. Let's get it.
See if we can sell it. See if we can become partners with them.
It's funny you should say that, but I talked to a fellow who will have to go nameless because he has to, but I know that WWE is very well aware of us and can't figure out for the life of them how we're making this really amazing quality product for the limited edition runs that we're making of it. And they're not concerned of us in terms of competition, because there's no way we can ever be in a volume competition with Mattel and all those kind of things. But we're kind of an anomaly to them. They're not sure exactly. They're not worried about us, but they're not quite sure how we're doing it.
Well, that's good.
On the radar.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they definitely know who we are.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
We have a couple more things that pop up that blow their minds. We'll see where it takes us.
Yeah, there's definitely some things.
They'll copy it. They'll just copy it. That's what happens. They'll copy it and they'll put the gas pedal on it and make it a bajillion dollar deal. But anyway, I just thought that was kind of funny.
Well,
but they're doing a lot of Legends things, as I'm sure you're.
Yeah, they are.
Aware. And
I'm just to throw out a little teaser here for you.
Mm-hmm.
I had a couple of legends call me this week that want to get on board with Power Town.
How about that? Well, guys, gotta keep your eyes.
I can't say who yet.
Eyes and ears open.
Yeah.
Don't say who, because somebody will swoop in.
I know they will.
That's
I'm not saying it till those names are on those contracts.
100%. Ooh, good stuff. Good stuff. We have several
big
females
names,
in
Tom. Big names.
big names. My lips are sealed because I don't know. I don't know who they are.
Well, you know what? It's the word's getting out, and everybody talks about our action figures and how well they're built. I mean, you know, TA can tell you. I mean, it's the best on the market.
They're fantastic. Do I have? Yeah, I got them right here.
Who was it, Charlie Fez or Barbara, that ran over one and it didn't break?
She ran it over?
Yeah, by accident. She ran over it and it didn't break the figure.
Now that's quality right there. Look at
That's
that.
pretty good.
Well, then you open it up, and
Nice.
I was at a little event this weekend, and God Almighty, everybody was flocking around them,
They are.
and
It's
they
amazing.
really like the stories inside.
Yeah, it's such a neat presentation. Like, you know, I'm somewhat of a guy that's like doesn't care to keep them in the box, but these are the ones I keep in the box.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. I mean, you know, it's not a figure to take out and play with.
Play with or nothing.
Yeah,
I usually have them out.
and that's why the collectors have been all over our butts, you know, and buying up as much as they can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a couple I take out just to present them differently, but otherwise, it's not like I have a lot of them. But yeah, get them when they're available. You go to PowertownWrestling.com. You can scan that QR code. You can check out and see what's new and what's cooking and what they had on sale, and then you can pine for it and try to find it on eBay for a very expensive price.
Yeah, the cupboard is getting thin.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So be on the lookout for more news. Well, it's a fascinating. It's such a great job. I have the Bruiser Brody and I have Kerry Von Erich. So very happy to have those in my collection.
You don't have a Magnum TA?
I need to get one. I need to get a Magnum. I need to get a Vern. I need a Magnum and Vern.
I've got.
I might be able to trade you for a hat and a couple shirts.
That's a deal. I got to get them sent out to you. Speaking of,
I've got a couple of Verns left. Not too many. This event the other day, man, I brought 4 of them. They were gone.
They were gone, though.
Yeah.
Magnum, this is what I got to send you right here. Look at this. Boom. Look at that hoodie.
Ooh.
And then we got
Magnum. Is that a cardboard box of Magnum that you can put in the stores?
That's the cereal box. It comes in a cereal box.
Is. Perfect.
I need a couple coffee cups. That's
yes.
General Mills is right here in town. I'll see if we can get them on the box.
There we go. Guys, if you like what you're seeing there, that's a zip-up hoodie with the classic Magnum TA logo. Scan that QR code or go to onetruesport.com. You can buy that mug. You can buy that hoodie. You can buy that hat. I got to send all that to Magnum. And then look at this. We got some Greg Gagne stuff too.
Geez.
The high flyer himself. The zip hoodie. It comes in dark blue and black. Same with Magnum. Magnum's comes in black and dark blue as well. And then you can get the Greg Gagne Heart of a Champion mug too. Stay warm this winter. So be sure to do it.
Yeah. Better get one quick here.
Yep. I know. Me too. I'm layered up right now. I got a thermal underneath this baby right now. I'm freezing up in Pennsylvania. Something fun I wanted to do with you guys. I was like, not a whole lot of crazy news happening in wrestling this week, but I was just like, you know what? I wanted to dive back into guys' promos and see. So what I did is I downloaded a promo of each of you guys, and what I want to have happen is I'll play. So for example, I'll play Greg's promo. Magnum, I want you to give your feedback on Greg's promo. And then I'll play Magnum's promo, and Greg, I want you to give your feedback on Magnum's promo.
Perfect.
So how's it sound? So we'll do. We'll start with Greg's promo, and Magnum will get your assessment. Greg, you give your feedback afterwards and your thoughts on it all.
Listen to what TA says first.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So here we go, Greg. This is you. You're starting off paying a tribute to Adrian Adonis, and then you're talking about Jerry the King Lawler. There you go.
It had to be your big moment in 1988, becoming the first ever international television champion, and you had to be the tough guy to get there.
Well, Adrian Adonis definitely was a tough guy. People here in Winnipeg remember him teamed up with Jesse the Body Ventura. They held the tag team championships of the world, and all of us wrestlers know that it was Adonis that carried the load on that team. He was the man in the ring. He was the wrestler. Ventura had the big mouth, and he had the strength, but it was Adonis who was the wrestler. Over the years, he put on a lot of weight, but he was still a tough competitor, and he had a lot of endurance in there no matter what he looked like. And my hats go off to him. He was a great competitor and a great wrestler.
Talking about great wrestlers and great competitors, Jerry the King Lawler, your opportunity to meet him in Winnipeg on February 2nd.
Well, we know all about Lawler now. He just defeated Kerry Von Erich, and he holds 2 championships, the AWA and the World Class Heavyweight Championship of the World. So this is a great opportunity for Greg Gagne. And I remember back of all the matches I had over the years in the Winnipeg Arena, the memorable matches, the matches with Nick Bockwinkel. And they were tough, hard matches. And the people of Winnipeg knew that when I stepped in the ring, I gave it all I had all the time. I might not be the biggest wrestler or the meanest wrestler in professional wrestling, but the fans know when I step in the ring, I give it everything I've got. I know one thing is for a fact, that I can out-wrestle Jerry Lawler. That's always been my forte, wrestling, speed. And that's what I'm going to work on when I step in the ring with Lawler. And I plan on walking out of the Winnipeg Arena as a world's heavyweight champion.
How about that? Groundhog's Day. It's going down February 2nd.
What a good-looking young man. I'd have booked him.
Yeah,
Right?
And I had a hair then too.
Man, yeah. And see, that is like the recipe for a classic babyface, promo. I mean, to the point, doesn't say anything that he doesn't believe he can back up, because babyfaces cannot lie. They have got to, if they don't know they're going over, they cannot go out there and definitively say, I'm going to beat you right in the middle of 1, 2, 3. They can talk around it. They give you the best shot. They can tell you all the reasons why they're a better athlete, but they got to be honest and truthful. And that's what babyfaces do. So that's textbook babyface, 101, Greg Gagne, superstar.
Well, geez, thanks, TA. Feel the energy?
I feel the energy.
They started
Greg,
buying tickets.
What memories do you have of that? Do you remember cutting that promo or any aspects of anything?
I remember cutting that promo. I mean, we did so many. Our day and TA's was like ours. You had all those markets to do. But that Winnipeg, we did right in Winnipeg the day after the matches. We wrestled on Thursday nights. Fridays, we went in and did interviews for the next card, and then flew back to Minneapolis. And then Saturday, we were on the road, and usually Mondays was our big day for interview days. It started at 9 in.the morning and, go till 6, 7 at night.
Wow.
To do each market, 5 interviews for each market.
Yeah.
We were from Winnipeg to St. Louis all the way out to the West Coast. So we had, a large market to fill.
Absolutely. Man.
Yeah.
Well, I liked that promo a lot. I thought when I watched it, I was like, Greg has such a quarterback vibe, like a starting quarterback and when you go after, when you hear somebody do an interview with a pro that's been a veteran of the game and stuff like that. And you really conveyed that in that, kind of that authenticity and what Magnum was. You said everything that you were believed in backing up and everything like that when it comes to the ring, and just matter of fact, and that's what I like out of certain baby faces like that.
As a baby face, you can't be overconfident. I don't think. I mean, in our position, the regular guys, they can say what they want, but we have to be honest. And Vern said, just be who you are. Mm-hmm. And I did play quarterback in college, so thanks for that.
You're welcome.
But and you had to let the people feel the emotion, how you really feel about it.
Yeah.
If you don't believe you can do that, it's hard to convey that to the public.
Right.
So
and,
I believe
you're the antithesis to a Jerry the King Lawler, who's like a ultimate heel kind of thing, and underhanded and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, he was
very good.
A little different style than what we were used to in the AWA.
Mm-hmm, yeah,
and that territory he was in Tennessee, Memphis, was a lot different than what ours was. I mean, we only had 2 angles a year that carried the whole year.
Yeah.
And they were going weekly, so they were having all this other stuff, and the creation that they'd have, different matches that they had, we didn't have to do a lot of that. We'd build up for a cage match, but most time you're building up for your championship matches, whether it was the world title or the TV title or the tag team title. And that's what everybody focused on, and you had the blow off at the end of the year in a cage with somebody, whoever was, we only did 2 angles a year.
That's it. Man.
and it carried it. Okay, let's hear TA's interview.
All right.
I can only imagine.
Here we go. Here we go. I believe this one's from 1986, but here we go.
The American heartthrob, the United States heavyweight champion, Magnum TA. Welcome.
Thank you. You know, David, I think that championships should be judged by the quality of the competitors that are chasing you down, trying to take that championship away from you. So what I've done, most of the times you're always on the defensive. Well, I'm going to put myself on the offense for 1986. I've made up a hit list. Now, Tully Blanchard was on top of that hit list, but when he had to resort to slapping women, he went way down that list with me. What I'm doing is putting this title up on the line for the top competitors out there in the world today. And Nikita Koloff, I want you to know right now, personally, from me to you, that you're on top of my list. You like to say all these great things about USSR, about the superior athletes that you are. Well, I'm going to give you the opportunity to show the whole wrestling world what you're made of, because I'm going to go out of my way to find you 1986 and show all the wrestling people out there why I am the United States heavyweight champion, the fightingest champion those people out there have ever had.
All right, ladies and gentlemen,
Terrific.
you heard from the boss, the United States
The boss.
champion, Magnum TA. Let's go.
There he was.
Perfect interview. Another great babyface interview. You know, it wasn't over the top. Wasn't, you know, telling him what he's going to do. He's just competing against everybody and take on all challengers. And Nikita Koloff, you're the one I'm coming for. That was very heartfelt, very emotional. You could feel it. And I thought, excellent babyface interview.
Yeah, yes, very much so. Magnum, while Greg had the quarterback vibe, the starting quarterback vibe, you had the star linebacker vibe where you're just going to like light the guy up. That's kind of the vibe I was getting from that one.
Well, he was a bigger babyface, so he could be a little more aggressive.
Yeah.
And I had, and my thing was the camera. You know, it was to stare the camera down and to look into the homes of the people I was talking to, so they felt that connection. And it worked because, you know, I had such a connection with people from all walks of life, red, yellow, black, or white, didn't matter, and you know, all different income brackets and the whole shooting match. So people found something they could relate to, and you know, what I was going through, to living vicariously along with. And I really think the eye contact thing for me was a big part of that, because again, when that little red light came on, I was looking right there, boring a hole in it. There was a cameraman named Wayne Daniels back in the day, and if I had something really intense going on, he would zoom all the way in. You would just have me from here to here, man. I mean, he would have me in that camera eating it. And, but he said that's what, you know, that's what people, you know, that's what drove the peg and wound up the needle. And got, you know, when things were really intense, you can see in someone's eyes, to Greg's point, if they believe in what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the, you know, that's kind of the medium that cuts right through all the BS. If you see somebody's intensity in their eyes and they're staring you down and saying something with conviction, then they believe when they come to the arena, they're going to see that take place.
Right. I found too, even if the content itself, if some wrestler has to go out and say something, or it's an angle that's not that hot, or things like that, if they speak with conviction, I buy into it still more. Like it does hinder the storyline itself, might hinder it, but when the babyface goes out and cuts a promo, or it's like, you know, they're trying to convey something that they believe in, then I can buy into it too. And so
I think like, you know, I think that about Kevin Owens.
mm-hmm.
I think he comes across very, very believable, very, very real, and convicted about his words. And I think that's what makes him in such a compelling position with what they're doing in the storyline with him and Randy and Cody right now, because he's a very passionate, real guy. And, you know, it doesn't have to look like Charles Atlas or whatever, you know. I mean, you forget about everything about that guy in terms of, you know, some guy that's 6'5" and chiseled physique. You know, you believe that he's going to be out there and be in a fight.
Yeah.
And bring it. And I think, you know, again, that quality in any performer is critical to, you know, the difference of, you know, being a great hand, to be able to go out there and mechanically, you know, work a 5-star match But if you don't have that piece to go along with it, you're never going to get but so far up the ladder in people's eyes. And I've seen, we've talked about him on this program. I mean, guys like Brad Armstrong, who's one of the best of the best, couldn't, if he'd had 70% of the ability to really get his personality across on camera to go along with that, ooh,
Yeah.
it would been a megastar. My friend Barry Windham, who is one of my best friends in life, was a good interviewer, but he was such a great worker. His work in the ring far outshadowed the way he came across on the interview.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And he could go out there and have a match with Flair, second to none on the planet, and was a world champion and did all kinds of things. But that little niche, that finding that piece of you that comes across that sparks something in people is unique, and it's hard to find. It's hard to identify.
Yeah.
When you look at Owens, he's kind of the regular guy's hero.
Right. Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have the muscles, doesn't have the big thing. He's kind of just the rugged type, beer drinker type guy that the people can really relate to.
Mm-hmm.
And he gives them all that in the ring, and then he gives it on his interviews. And that interview is so important because that either makes a wrestler or breaks a wrestler.
It does. Mm-hmm.
If you have to be able to get that, pass on that emotion that you feel, and you like Vern used to say, just take it as it's real.
Mm-hmm.
And you really are feeling it. I mean, what would you really say about this person if they had done the things that they've done to you, and let it come out naturally?
Right.
And a lot of guys, I've seen guys that are great in the ring, but they can't talk on the TV, and they'll put a manager with them to help them get going. But if you can do the deal in the ring, and you can talk them into buying those tickets, you can have a pretty good career.
You can get a combo there.
Great example. Can you imagine if the Barbarian could have talked like superstar Billy Graham?
My goodness.
Yeah.
Guy who was bigger than a house and athletically could do anything in that ring with anybody. And if you could sprinkle that, that fairy dust over their head and have them be able to cut a promo and come across like that, whoa, I'd love to be able to just get the best of the best, throw them all in the bag, and shake them up, and see them come out like that. It'd be so cool,
wouldn't it?
Well, Stan Hansen was a great interviewer. King Kong Brody. Nick Bockwinkel was a different one. He was kind of the elite type, stuffy ass guy, and he projected that. And that was him in real life too.
Yeah, it worked because it was real.
It really was. And you have to. That's what it really has to be. And Ray Stevens was another, great interviewer, and not as good as some of the other ones. But what he could do in the ring, and just the few words that he got out and how he got them out emotionally, boy, you can take a lot of guys in this business that, had all the potential in the world, but either something lacked in the ring or something in their interviews that the people didn't, get into their personalities.
Didn't connect with,
Make that connection, yeah.
When it comes to somebody like a Brad Armstrong, who I always hear how great, like funny and everything like that he was backstage and entertaining he was, when the camera comes on, he's not able to convey that. What do you think trips somebody up like that, where it just does not click?
I don't think they gave him. He just landed in the right spot with the right guidance and whatnot. Another guy that was like that and came out of it was Kevin Nash.
Yeah.
Kevin Nash, when he was Vinny Vegas in WCW, I rode in the car with him, and he was the most entertaining guy I think I've ever heard in my entire life. He could run a monologue for 200 miles and just keep you in stitches. And at that time, he hadn't yet got over, and and gone on to do what he did with the character of Diesel, and then coming back with the Outsiders with WCW. But it's a matter of being on camera enough till you exhaust everything that's not working, I think, and then just finding it, and just really getting comfortable in it, because it's really, to Greg's point, back when you did hours of interviews every week, after a TV show, and y'all did, we did 3 and 4 hours of back to back interviews for all these specific towns that we were going through. You got a lot of mic time, and you could feel if it was moving the needle, if it wasn't, and that is just as important as the ring time, and somebody kind of maybe giving you a little tidbit or a little something to latch on to, or getting comfortable, comfortable doing it and finding something again that is a niche, because Dutch Mantel, great talker. When he was commentating, he was fantastic. And some people are just natural storytellers, and they come by well, and some not. Did you ever see Brad when they put him underneath the mask and made him Arachnaman or whatever?
Oh, no. I remember seeing that. I didn't know that was him, though.
We got a cease and desist from Marvel.
Did you?
Because he was for all practical purposes portraying Spider-Man, but we called him Arachnaman, but he was doing it so well. He was better even under a mask, because he could pantomime like nobody's business. He didn't even need you to see his face. He was that good and that agile. And they put him with Bad Street with Michael Hayes and Jimmy Garvin, and it was so flippin' entertaining. It was just a shame. But yeah, guys, there's so many talented people in the business. That's why, for the special few that had were blessed and got to work on top and work main event angles and do those things, for every story like that, there's another 80% that never got that chance, and never really, got to be on that side of the program, and it's not because they weren't good. There was some great hands. They just weren't destined to get in that spotlight and be the one to try to draw the house.
Yeah. Eddie makes a good point. I want to get your perspective on this, Magnum, too. He says Brad was a solid promo guy. Brad was a Southern wrestling babyface promo type. Do you kind of agree with that kind of identity with it more so, or?
I think maybe you could call it Southern, but it was just, it's like you just didn't ever really believe he was pissed off enough that you might be kicking your door in and coming down and beating you up and then eating your dinner and taking your wife away from you or something. you got to be edgy to get these people kind of there, and yeah, I mean, he could communicate it great, and he could be, like I said, he could be entertaining in all these funny things that he would do outside of the ring. But even though those things were funny and entertaining, it didn't translate into how he would be in his character.
Sure.
Again, I mean, there's guys that can bring some of the comedic stuff in to the deal, but you can be comedic if you're a badass. And you can make them like you. If you're Blackjack Mulligan, if you want to be funny, you can be funny. If not, you could go put that that big meat hook upside their head and knock them out like he did with Ole. I mean, certain guys that can navigate things differently.
Bobby Heenan was over the top on that. He'd pick out little idiosyncrasies with everybody, and he'd bring him out in the interview.
Yeah,
I was wrestling Nick Bockwinkel for the title, and Heenan says, I was out scouting. Greg Gagne's been out in Florida for 2 weeks, training for this match, and when I was out watching him, and sure enough, he was stuck in the sand. And Marty O'Neill said, "What do you mean he was stuck in the sand? One of those skinny little legs of his, he was stuck in the leg." Took him days to get him out, he said. So we don't know.
It took him days.
he was a dandy boy. And then we had the Crusher, who was known for being a beer drinker in Milwaukee. And he had the big cigar, and he was out dancing with Wanda, the big Polish gal.
Yeah.
Polka all night, and he'd come with sunglasses, one lens out, and a cigar, and maybe a keg of beer on his shoulder, and do his interview. And then Mad Dog, oh my God, he did one of the most unbelievable interviews you've ever heard in your life. And when he got done, you were scared shitless.
I believe that.
But you were anyhow when you got in the ring with him.
Nonetheless.
Unbelievable.
Oh man. Patty, she reaffirms that she is a big Barry Windham fan. So yes, you can't top Barry Windham. Doug mentioned too that he's like, and neither promo was scripted, both just speaking from the heart, referring to both your guys' promos. So yes, you can very much tell that in both those promos.
What, scripted? Is that what the word was?
Yeah. Neither of those promos were scripted.
Yeah, but there was no scripting back in those days.
Yeah, nope. Definitely did not happen then. That's for sure. Michelle says, watching this makes me remember my mom asking me why I watch wrestling. I showed her this with Magnum, and she said, well, duh. Mom, LOL. How about that? So hooked Michelle's mom on it. So there we go. Let's take a couple questions here. Let's see. Yes, we started this one off. Oh, go ahead. Greg and Magnum. And Tom, do you think AEW is overdoing the hardcore wrestling? Greg, you haven't watched it, but there's been a lot of wild stuff when it comes to what AEW pushes the limits, and envelope with the plastic bags, syringe, a lot of blood going down. Magnum, what do you kind of think about that?
Yeah. I think that it reminds me of, I watched a hardcore match. Tessa did a hardcore show out in California somewhere, and they were breaking the fluorescent light bulbs over each other and stabbing the little punji sticks in people's heads and doing all this just stuff. I mean, and like every match, it was like they needed to literally sweep the ring up between matches so you didn't get just eat up from what was the leftover from the match before. And I could get it if it was one thing that was from a build up, a blow up, whatever. I mean, I remember the first time I saw somebody get slammed on, thumbtacks, for instance. I said, geez, man. I said, you're really reaching if that's what you got to do to portray violence. Because to me, if I'm mad enough at somebody to want to really kick their ass, the last thing I'm thinking about is pouring thumbtacks out and going to slam you on them. I may be putting your head through the wall or something, or something depicting different kind of violence. But back to your point, too much of anything, no matter what it is, it loses something in translation, because then it just becomes ridiculous. You got a syringe sticking in a guy, you got a plastic bag over somebody, you got all these things, and you're still on a program that you have people advertising during that program. You've got executives watching, everything else, and unless you got some big disclaimers up about graphic things and all that stuff like you could get if you're watching a Amazon program or something like that, then I think it's just kind of a stretch. But I mean, I do get it. It's the culture. It's time. We grow up where kids have played video games that have the most graphic, graphic violence in it than I could ever imagine. And I think that's the difference. Back years ago, you could imagine the violence. You could imagine what it felt like, what you were seeing as somebody's head was driven into a piece of steel, or backdrop to a concrete floor, or hit with a chair and come up, covered, and your imagination took you on a different journey. But they're playing to a whole different generation that's been so painted because they've seen so much. They go to see movies and they're pulling people's hearts out and just the most horrendous things that I could have ever imagined. if I was 8 years old and saw something like that, I would have been scarred for life.
Me too, right?
And today, I mean, it's just almost like it's almost comical, and the AI stuff and all the things they can do to make these special effects are so graphic that I think it's just desensitized everybody. And again, wrestling always a barometer of the culture, and if they're trying to be edgy, they're just dancing along that line to try to see it. So, for me and for my era, too much. For them, what they're, where the thing that they're trying to play in, I would still dial it back just a little bit and use it where appropriate. I mean, when Dean Ambrose was, first in there and had, some of those, I mean, he busted his ass when he got in that organization,
Oh yeah.
putting them on the map. I mean,
Mhm.
nobody else can say definitively that they've worked as hard as that guy did, putting them on, a firm path of we're going to have a kick-ass, style of wrestling, and I think if you've just got a couple people doing that, you're all right. But when you have too many, then I was watching something the other day when some guy had stapled somebody to the mat. I
Yeah,
mean,
that is-
just goofy stuff. And Paul Heyman was, Paul was dancing along that with ECW, 20 some years ago.
yeah.
So it's nothing new. It's 2024. We got a whole era of kids that have come up in this, this gaming world and new different culture, and they're just trying to give those people some alternative to watch on a big stage. So I'm not denouncing it. It was just, again, I would choose where I sprinkled it out.
Right. I'm with you, Magnum, on it for sure. I think you look at what they did at Bad Blood. You had CM Punk and Drew McIntyre in a Hell in a Cell, and that got very bloody and violent. But there was a reason and a rhyme to it all. And yeah, the
Storyline build up to it.
storyline build up. Drew did get busted real bad by the toolbox, got like 16 stitches in his head. So I don't think that was completely intentional, obviously. So there was more blood than probably what was needed, but it made sense for the storyline. It was the blow off match. It was all this stuff going down with it. So when the thing I've known now in AEW's defense, I believe this week, I don't think I saw any blood this week on AEW whatsoever. They didn't do anything. But what I think a big thing with that they should be more mindful of is some of the over the top, how each match can kind of feel the same so much between one another. Like you have somebody doing all the flips and that kind of stuff, and then you have that coming up in another match and then another match, and it's just like there's no balance between that. I think to what you were saying, Magnum, it definitely, you don't want to overdo it with anything when it comes to stuff.
No, and could you do it like we did it 30 years ago? No, you couldn't. I mean, we had guys like Vern and guys like Eddie Graham and Bill Watts who say, hey, you know what? This first match, nobody throws a punch. There's nobody going outside the ring. There's no this. There's no that. And if you were to, be some young whippersnapper and, have been watching, say, the Midnight and the Rock and Roll Express and saw some really crazy spot they did, and you decided to mix some of that up in your repertoire, you'd have been, going somewhere else to work. You'd have been gone. And because again, everybody had their unique things, and you didn't use somebody else's finish for a high spot, or their signature moves just to try to get a pop. And and there's a lot of people that didn't have any business trying to do some of those things anyway, because it exposed the business, because they couldn't do it well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it again, you learn from some of that psychology still applies, but from a hard hitting impact believability factor, I still, I mean, I call him Dean, but I guess John Moxley is the appropriate name to call him. But he's still kind of, to me, the flag bearer for that group, and very credible. And he's like a modern Stone Cold in a lot of ways. and his entrance and his demeanor and his whole thing. But at least his animosity seems to make sense. His attitude makes sense, and more so than some of the other guys that are, again, I think trying to find themselves and apply other people's things to themselves. That it's, again, the orchestra leader should kind of has to direct those things.
Yes, yeah, very well said too. It's all up to that. Greg, do you have any thoughts that you wanted to add or anything?
Well, I wouldn't. I wouldn't even watch anything like that.
Right.
And going back to when we had to watch every match on the card. If we were the last match, second match, first, we had to watch the ones before us and the ones after, and learn from that, and don't duplicate what they're doing. And that's why I think Vern's camps were so hard. We did 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. Is he taught us how to wrestle.
Yeah.
How to get in and out of holds so that, when you went in the ring, you had a good repertoire of different moves and things you could do that wasn't duplicating the match before. And, he'd build up to you had the Mad Dogs and the Crushers and those guys who had a few of the gimmick matches, Wahoo with the Indian strap match, but they only had one blow off match a year. It was a build up to the cage match or the saloon match where the guys are around the ring and they'd have to throw the guy back in. And the strap match, it was one time and nobody else duplicated any of that. And it built up for that.
Yeah.
And our society is so screwed up right now.
It's pretty wild right now.
What?
No, not us.
The kids.
You didn't have your Kool-Aid this
If you have to go to that on your rush, if you have to go to what they're going through, thumbtacks and glass and light bulbs, that shit, that's not wrestling. Vern used to say the marquee, it says wrestling. Give them freaking wrestling.
That's it.
And that's what you better do. You're not going to last long here.
Well, the thing is, I think a big issue is this, and a big help can be this. It depends on how you use it, because accessibility is everywhere. So you can see all the types of wrestling you want to see or don't want to see when it comes to the hardcore stuff, the blood stuff. But then we're talking about promos. Imagine if you guys had something like this back in your day where you could cut a promo at any time or like do anything like that. It would, there's opportunity for talent to get themselves over nowadays. Some don't take advantage of it, others do.
We used to, talking about doing interviews, I used to lay in bed at night, taking different opponents and doing an interview for them.
Yeah.
Didn't need I don't need, Vern will tell you, 3 points is what you needed to make. Have a good beginning, good middle, and a good finish, and fill it in between.
Yeah.
But approach it like it's a real game. And how would you really react if it's a football game and you're talking about, what are you going to do out there to beat this other team?
Yeah.
And that was his philosophy, and that was built into most of the guys that came in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I know they get.
EA would have fit in really good in the AWA.
Man, I could tell just by watching those promos. Both of you guys would have assimilated very well, whether you were in Crockett, Greg, or Magnum was up in the AWA.
Yeah, I could have turned him heel pretty damn quick.
Oh yes. Well, guys, if you like what you're seeing, be sure to like, share, subscribe on the FullHorsemanNetwork.com or go to OneTrueSportTV.com. Be sure to like, share, subscribe there. You get all the content with Greg and Magnum on both those channels. But we're back on audio with Arn Anderson. So go type in 4 Horsemen Network on your podcast feed of choice, and that will pop up Arn and Straight Talk with the Boss. I actually have to double this episode with the last one because I didn't post the last one on the audio. So we'll get that out. It'll be a super episode. So we'll do that. Tune in. Be sure to like, share, subscribe that on iTunes and on Spotify. Give us 5 stars. help get the word out about this show. And hey, check out Power Town over there too. Scan that QR code. Always keep your eyes open on that because there's always going to be news breaking for that and things going down. Magnum is laying the hammer down. He's in fight mode this week, so he'll be ready to handle business like the boss does. So
he has been doing a fantastic job with Power Town.
Absolutely. You can follow Greg on Instagram at Gagne.Greg. You can follow Magnum on Instagram at the real Magnum T. Oh no, Magnum _TA on Instagram. And then you can follow him on X at the real Magnum TA. You can follow me on X at Dominic D'Angelo. And check out my weekly daily show, Rumor and Innuendo, on YouTube and on your podcast feed of choice. Me and former WWE writer Robert Karpelis break down the wrestling news every day. So be sure to check that out. And guys, this has been a lot of fun. Let's do it again.
Thanks, TA.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
And get the Greg shirt. Get the Greg merchandise. Go to onetruesport.com. Scan that QR code. Get the hoodie. Get the mug. Get the Magnum hoodie. Get the Magnum mug. There's
great birthday and Christmas presents for you guys.
It's all going down. 'Tis the season to get ready for all that stuff. It's getting cold up here in Pittsburgh. And I know it's getting cold up there in Minnesota, Greg. So
getting there.
Getting ready. All right, guys. We'll see you next week here on Straight Talk with the Boss. Magnum TA and Greg Gagne.
See y'all later.
See ya.